Jeremy Swayman will not be in attendance tomorrow on the ice. He has chosen to wait, and rightfully so, till a contract is settled. It's our intention to continue to negotiate a contract.
Heard it right there from Don Sweeney, general manager of the Boston Bruins. Jeremy Swayman will not attend training camp with the Bees until his contract is done. She's Annabelle Hasselbeck. I'm George Balekji. This is Boston's End of the Chat from the PNC Bank Studio. AB, this has been the biggest news in Boston all offseason with all the hockey talk. Jeremy Swayman was their best player in the playoffs. He started 44 games for them last season. They traded away Linus Ullmark, clearly saying Sway is our guy. And everything was they're getting closer. They're getting closer to an agreement after saying we're not going to go to arbitration. And you hear Don Sweeney there. He's disappointed because he wanted a deal done, and they don't have it done yet.
You're right. I think we all thought that it was going to happen today, that we were going to hear something about it today. I know we were texting like, oh, hey, stay tuned. Like, we're probably going to be talking about a contract to this afternoon. And here we are, right? It's still nothing. But you're right. Sweeney did say he is disappointed. But what I did like about how he said, I'm disappointed in myself because this is my responsibility and I haven't been able to get it done. So I think throughout this whole conversation, the last, couple months, weeks is going down. Is that the language that both sides have been talking with has been very respectful, very thoughtful. And I did think it was impressive how he kind of took the responsibility on himself in that. It
is refreshing to see that transparency and that candidness from a general manager. He could have gone up and gone with the GM talk. Contract negotiations underway. I'm not going to talk further, but he kept fielding questions. And the way you put it out, too, of how respectful they've been on both sides, like Sweeney is disappointed. He's not suiting up with the team. And when they're on the ice, he's not out there with them. I even remember back to when Jeremy Swayman was on Nesson for the Jimmy Fund, and Adam Pellerin asked the perfect question, what's your confidence like it'll get done? And Swayman said, there's a lot of confidence. I know there's something special building in this locker room. It'll work out, and I couldn't be happier to be a Bruin. But he said it's going to be business. He knows where he stands. He knows how well he played in the playoffs. Now he knows how young he is at 25. And this goes back to last season he played on an arbitration deal and said he never wanted to go back. He's a restricted free agent right now. And Sway and the Bruins both agreed we're not going to go back to arbitration. We'll negotiate. We'll do it as pure business. We'll get something done. They have until December 1st. If nothing's agreed to, and I'm not saying that's where it's trending because both sides are saying closer, closer, and closer. If he's not agreed to a deal by December 1st, he can't play at all this season. But obviously, the Bruins want to get something done before the puck drops for their regular season in October.
No, you're right. And they did say they have a date, right? They did name drop December 1st. And so I think once everyone heard that, they're like, okay, well, now we know. Like, that's what we're going to be keeping our eye on. So it is funny that, that's how we're holding on to all the things. But you can really tell that through the language that everyone's been talking about, whether it's a player, the organization, or even Jeremy, you can tell that their relationships have really been accounted for in this and just how they're speaking to each other. They've been through this before. Sweeney even said, we've had other players go through this. It's nothing new. They have this sort of poise and peace about them. Yet here we are also all right, it's going to happen. Let's get going. So it is interesting.
We've seen it, David Pastrnak, and we'll get to more sound bites from Don Sweeney. Pastrnak, Charlie McAvoy, Brandon Carlo, the names that he dropped of. They've taken time, but we've got them done. I think that's the important part. Let's go to another soundbite. This is a longer one from Don Sweeney, but it's an important one to listen to. This is him going more in depth on the contract aspect and just trying to get a deal done with Jeremy Swayman.
Disappointed that when you set things as a priority in a general manager spot, that you do your best to try and accomplish that, and I haven't been able to do that yet. But I will make everybody aware that some of the inconsistencies that have been reported are completely inaccurate. And I think that being a representative of the Bruins, how we do business and try and keep things close to the vest and respect everybody's own privacy, that I'll answer questions, but I'm not going to go into depth of the negotiation and talks we had. Because we're excited about the players that are here and looking to move forward. As I said, I'm disappointed. By the end of the day, I'm optimistic because I think we'll find a landing spot before December 1st. I'll continue to work every day. It's not unlike, David Pastrnak and Charlie McAvoy and Brandon Carlo. They've been longtime Boston Bruins. It's a process that seemingly, every year there's a few players, and this is the year that we have one. But I have to continue to do my job. I have to respect, the position that Jeremy and his camp has taken, and continue to try and find common ground.
So heard it right there, AB, as you were alluding to, him saying, I'm disappointed in myself. Like, this is a priority, and he's not hiding from that. He's not acting like it's not a big deal. We've heard other GMs, owners, you could say like a Jerry Jones or the Cowboy, go, nah, it's not a priority for me. He's owning it. He's saying, like, we know what we have with Sway. And something that's important that Don Sweeney mentioned, too, where he approached this offseason knowing what he had to do. He knew he had to extend Jeremy Swayman, and he said it. He goes, we had 2 goalies, both want to start 55 games. And that's why they traded Linus Ullmark. And basically saying Linus wasn't going to accept the role to be a number 2, which I don't blame him because he's still really good at a young age. And Swayman wasn't going to accept that, especially after the playoff run he had, where once he got that start in that first round series against the Leafs, he never let up, and he was the best goalie in the postseason. But again, to your point of him talking about, I'm disappointed because of himself, you just see that accountability from Don Sweeney. You see how much it wears on him. And even to go out, the inaccuracies he mentioned on the reporting. That was on Spit and Chicklets about a month ago, maybe 3 weeks ago. Biz saying that he wasn't picking up phone calls and they haven't heard from him in 3 weeks. He's like, no, that is absolutely false, 100% false. You won't find any GM that does that. This is Don Sweeney stepping up. First press conference of this season for him, and just owning everything in the full accountability.
100%. And that clip was even from the beginning of the press conference when he handled it. He was really calm. He kind of kept his composure about the inaccuracies that the media was reporting. And then at the end, like the last 2 minutes of his press conference, that's when he was like, this is BS. And he really brought the temper and the energy because he was like, I'm not standing for that. I've been clear. I've been transparent. Coach even said, I think one of the reporters came in after him and was like, oh, Coach Sweeney told us, X, Y, and Z. And he was like, whoa, I'm shocked that he said that all to you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm confused that he would say that much information. But that's because he was being so transparent and so honest with the situation. Because you're right, he wants to say, Bruins fans, people in New England, this is my priority. I'm not, turning off my phone. I'm not turning a shoulder to it. This is something that I care about. And you could just tell that in the beginning, he knew what he was going to say. He kept his poise about the media. I'm not going to go after you guys. And at the end, he was like, all right, that's it. This is BS, man.
You're going to ask me
to pull it out.
You're going to ask me a third, fourth time. I'm going to make it very clear. And that's what he did. And he followed up with it again. He also mentioned, as I said, McAvoy, Carlo, David Pastrnak. I think back to 2019, there was a bridge deal for Charlie McAvoy and Brandon Carlo. McAvoy was a 3-year deal, $4.5 million a year, before eventually signing his 8 by 9.5. Carlo was 2 years, $2.5 million before his 6 by 4.1 million. And that was a 2019 Bruins team tight against a cap. So they had to make deals work for now and then later. I wonder if that's what it's an option maybe it could boil down to for Swayman. If you're 25 and we have $8 million in cap space, so we could pay you now, we could pay you next year when that cap goes up to around 24, 28 million. Or we could do a bridge year. Let's do 2 years at a certain number, which I don't know. And we've heard multiple reports on what sides they both are, but they keep getting closer. But that's him pointing to his experience and saying all this. And for him to get out in front too and right away address the Spit and Chicklets reports that were out and then bring it up again at the end. And for Montgomery to be caught off guard of how transparent he was, that's Don Sweeney being aware. He knows if I don't address everything at this presser, then it's going to be the same thing on podcasts. That where they're going to say, well, is it this? Is it that? What is he doing? Is he actually picking up the phone? He addressed every step of the way. You just hear the urgency from him, though, of how badly he wants Jeremy Swayman out there with the Bruins.
Yeah, I mean, he said, literally verbatim, he said, every day that Jeremy is out, it hurts our team. Mm-hmm. It hurts him. It hurts our preparation that we want to do. And it's going to stop us from finding, we need to find common ground.
Yeah.
And so you're right. He's being no one in an organization wants to go publicly and say something is hurting our organization, right? You want to look strong. You want to look, perfect, and you got no issues from the outside, right? Yeah. You don't want to give any teams any advantage that you can. And here he is literally saying this is hurting our team and it's hurting Jeremy's development as a player.
And especially that he wants to show to the dressing room for the Bruins. I'm pushing to get your guy there. Mm-hmm. I know the moves I made and you see what locker room is going to be vacant, what stall is going to be vacant when you're getting ready for practice tomorrow. He's making sure to hit on that. I'm doing everything I can to get Jeremy Swayman in the building. And he knows the value of what he brings together too. I mean, Brandon Busey down in Providence, they signed Eunice Corpusalo in the offseason. But those are guys that if Sway goes 55, can they backfill with that 27 on the other end, or 60 and 22, whichever way you want to put it? That those are going to be the backups, but he knows who the starter is. And he knows the window he has. David Pastrnak, Charlie McAvoy, Brad Marchand, who we'll talk about later. Bringing in an Elias Lindholm, a Zadorov to help out on the blue line. While you bring along these younger players, it's all about timing for any team that's making a push to win a Stanley Cup, which the Bruins are trying to do every season, and trying to take that step up from being the fourth best team in the East to better, and obviously a deeper run than just a second round exit. He knows this window is now, and it won't be forever, especially with the core. So that's him, saying everything on this. What I think is important too is you walk away from that. You hear how disappointed he is that Sway isn't under contract, and Swayman's doing the right thing in my opinion of being stern that I'm not going to play until I get paid, and I'm not going to step on that ice until you guys pay me. Like, he has the leverage, but you can tell that it's not done yet. But as all the reports are, it's closer. It's closer. It's closer. It's a work in progress. It's not a stalemate. It didn't get stagnant. They didn't give him a piece of paper, said this is the number and that's it. So they're working closer to get to a solution to get Swayman on the ice.
Right. And it doesn't seem like it's ever been a stalemate throughout the whole process. It has seemed like it's been constant communication, like Sweeney's been saying.
Yeah.
They're working towards something. They're trying to find common ground. And even from, some of what the players said, there's the tone and the posture that the Bruins have taken on this. I feel like if it was a stalemate, and if there were things that it was, kind of aggressive feelings toward each other, some things were being said, we would know by what's not being said. Mm-hmm. And I think that we can tell from what is being said. We're like, okay, the team is in good spirits, and the team's going into battle. They're going into training camp. People are fighting for their jobs. People are fighting for their spots and to, get higher on the roster, even so. And so really, I think some of these guys like on the team, they're like, yes, we're worried about that. We're concerned about our teammate. We want him to be out here on the ice with us. But like, I got to go fight for my career right now.
Yeah.
So I think as a team, it's not a distraction in the sense of like, we got a season to prepare for.
The priorities were to get deeper down the middle. They got that with Elias Lindholm. To help out on the blue line. They got that with Zadorov. And you don't give Lindholm that big contract without knowing what you're doing of putting him next to a David Pastrnak, putting both of them in front of a Charlie McAvoy, Zadorov, and a Lindholm as well, a Hampus Lindholm back on the blue line. It's that priority list of priority number one was Sway. Priority number two, get a better center and a playmaker to play off of Pasta, especially in the playoffs. He's checked two of his three boxes, the biggest needs this offseason. He's that one left, and you see how much it eats at him that it's not done yet. It's just good to see this, I think, because he could have walked up there and given all the GM or the non-answers. Mm-hmm. You know how coaches can handle pressers and general managers and owners. But he gave as honest answers as he can without going into detail on the negotiations. He went up and owned it. He said, it's on me. He said, I'm disappointed, but we want Swayman, and it's getting closer, and he is a priority. He's letting him know how important he is. And as we talk about, he wants him there for when the puck drops on the regular season. That's October 8th. Preseason starts September 22nd. October 8th is a priority with Swayman. You want him there sooner, of course. But that's also a guy that's worked out with the team in the offseason, been on the ice, putting in the work. So he's not just messing around back home in Alaska or somewhere else. He's been here in Boston. They've had him in the building. It's now just a priority of getting him onto the ice.
Yeah, I feel like if he wasn't in the building, then conversations, verbiage, how we're talking about might be a little more aggressive. But if you're talking the way that they're talking, it doesn't seem to be a problem.
We know Sway, especially the case he made. The interesting part that he's in is that you think of like a Vasilevsky when he got his big contract, but he was the number one goalie for the Lightning for like 2 seasons at that point, if I remember correctly. Swayman was the number one goalie the past 2 playoffs. Well, actually this past playoffs, it was Linus the one before, and then Sway got thrown in game 6. But point I'm making is Swayman, the one thing hampering him is he hasn't been that number one guy for a regular season and then the playoff run. That's the expectations now. You're going to come in, you're going to be our number one throughout the entire regular season. No more one on, one off, no more switching off. And as it was in the playoffs, which he completely owned, and he was absurdly good against both the Leafs and the Panthers, is you're going to be the number one guy now in the postseason. But he's never done that regular and post. And I think that's what must be the holdup is on getting this done.
It definitely is. It definitely is. And just even with that, the lack of long-term experience, and then just his age. You're 25, right? Like, you're not seeing a ton of 25-year-old goalies asking probably for what he's asking for, even though he has proven that he is one of the top 10 goalies in the NHL, right? So I think you're right. I think it's a combination of, because there's not that long-term experience playing at that level with that success, that's probably where the holdup is.
Yeah. All right, let's get to more quotes from Don Sweeney. He also spoke about Brad Marchand and his recovery. We learned a few weeks ago, it was beginning of September, he had 3 off-season surgeries. One was on his elbow, another on his groin, another on his abdominal. Here's Don Sweeney with the latest on Brad Marchand and when he'll be ready for the team.
Brad Marchand going to be ready for tomorrow? Or?
He will not start with the regular group. He's made a heck of a lot of progress in the last little while. You guys all know Brad will do everything possible to be out there and wanted to be out there. Our training staff and doctors have put the reins on to make sure that he's, we're trying to get ready for the season. We're not concerned about day one for Brad. We're only concerned about, opening night and moving forward, his full return to health.
Are you assuming that he will be ready for opening night?
Yeah, he's on track for it right now, minus any setbacks. We don't expect that.
Heard it right there. You talked about the preseason date, September 22nd. He's all focused on Marchand ready October 8th when they're at the Panthers, which will be their banner night. But Marchand, 36 years old, entering his 16th season, and he wasn't able to train until mid-August. Shared with the media he got those 3 surgeries back in the beginning of September. And those were injuries that were ailing him mainly towards the end of last season, that being the hernia and the torn tendon in his elbow. We know what we get with Brad Marchand. That's a guy that earned the C on his sweater. Everyone hates him that plays against him. Everyone in Boston absolutely loves him. But that is a promising update for 3 off-season surgeries for someone at his age that he is eyeing a return for the beginning of the regular season.
Definitely. And this is not the first off-season that he's had to go a procedure or a surgery. So he's a vet. He's a captain. He knows what to do. He's definitely not worried about it, but you can definitely sense and tell that he's itching to get back out there on the ice and be full go. So I think the real issue is going to be holding him back.
Yeah.
How are we going to make sure that he actually takes the time to rest? Because when you do have the position like him and you are, a big, strong Bruin like he is, you're going to want to be out there with your guys on the ice. And so he is someone who we need at full strength, at full health. But yeah, good to see that. It won't be too long.
You might be the first person I refer to Brad Marchand as big. He's going to love that.
Well, personality-wise, he plays big.
As a short king, I'm just saying I'm speaking for another short king.
He plays big.
It's appreciated.
Big. Okay,
it's appreciative.
Good.
That's for sure. So good on you.
Personality, fight,
huge.
That determines how you're perceived. Heart.
Height doesn't measure heart.
No, height doesn't measure heart.
This is a big Short Kings episode now. That's what we get. Thank you, AB, for standing up for us Short Kings. Us as in me and Brad Marchand. And he's coming off his first 82-game season since 13-14. And you mentioned it, the other surgeries he's had, like 2 hip surgeries in one offseason. And we saw that he was slow to start and maybe it affected him later in the year. I understand eyeing that October 8th. But again, when you think of the timing of this roster and the nucleus and the guys that they have there, ease Brad Marchand along. I want the Marchand in December. I want the Marchand in February, and definitely the Brad Marchand that is great in the playoffs, March, April, May, June, or when the playoffs are closing in, because that's when you need him most. This roster is well off enough that they can weather the storm without him, but if you get him and he's ready, don't rush him back, and then he's ready for the meat of the season and into the postseason. I feel like that's what's important. But you can't tell that to a hockey player. If Brad's good and he's cleared, he's going to be out there night 1.
Yeah. Well, they did hold him back in the golf outing that they just had. He said, someone asked him, like, oh, were you able to get some swings out there? He's like, yeah, they weren't going to allow me to let that happen. And he said that he'd really just have to see when he's back on the ice in those battle situations, he said, how it is really doing, how his arm is doing. But I thought that was funny that he made it known that they weren't letting him golf at the outing.
If you get a hockey player to not golf, that means he's taking his rehab serious.
Yes.
And that's a guy that's listening to his advice. So you got to love that if you're a Bruins fan. Another big winger, or it could be a center for the Bruins this upcoming season, Matty Poitras. I mean, he was great last season, just 19 years old. Obviously went down with a shoulder injury, got off-season surgery. Here's Don Sweeney on the latest on Poitras.
Yeah, he is a full go. Excited to have him back. He's going to play both center and wing through camp. he caught us by surprise to some degree last year, and really, until the injury, was on target to stay with us. This year is a little different, where we have some options, in terms of possibly playing some games in Providence. His goal is to make the team and pick up where he left off. It might take a little bit of time for him to get reacclimated and timing wise and such. We have a lot of camp. That was one of the reasons why he and Merck and Fabian did not participate in the rookie, because we have an extended period of camp with 7 games and black and gold game. So I think there's really ample opportunity to put them in situations that to see if they're going to be ready to handle a full load in the NHL and make our team.
So that's big news here from Matty Poitras. To say that Don Sweeney was like, we were eyeing for him to stay up. He scored 13 points his first 27 games, went to World Juniors with Team Canada, played well there, came back, and again, he was 19 at the time, 180 pounds. That's a lot on the body, and he was playing 14 minutes a night for the Bees too. Went down with a shoulder surgery, but that sounds so promising from what Sweeney's seen from Poitras post-surgery that's a guy we're eyeing in camp, and he drops in the versatility. He could be on the third line as a center. He could be a second line winger. You're slotting him in with veterans at those spots, and that's what you want for a second-year player.
Especially when you're young, you really need to be versatile. You need to be able to be moved around. If you're kind of just sticking to one little niche, you're not going to be able to be used as much. So it's really good that they're able to say that about him right now. And he even said it recently. He was like, I took this time to get a little bit bigger, get a little bit stronger, choose my spots a little bit more, because he knows that he is going to take those hits. Mm-hmm. And so he needs to be able to stay healthy. But I do think that this injury last season actually gave him time to get healthy, get bigger, get stronger. You had all that experience in those games that, like Sweeney said, we were surprised about him, right? So he probably gained experience that people didn't expect him to. So this offseason, just getting the ability and availability to train, get healthy, get bigger and stronger has probably almost benefited him more so.
And it's important. I think you said it for a young player, like you did say it, the versatility, like knowing your role or going to a coach and go, what do you want my role to be? You want me to be a third line center? You want me to be a second line winger? Like, I will do whatever it takes to get on the ice. And a guy like Fabian Lysell, who's been with Providence, had a concussion derail his last season. Sounds like he's past those injuries as well, because Sweeney doesn't bring up a Lysell without knowing that there is expectations and the possibility for him to play for the Bruins. You put him on that second line, when healthy, it would be Marchand, Charlie Coyle in the middle, and then you'd have Poitras on the wing. Or the third line, he'd be playing between Trent Frederick and Justin Brazeau. That's a lot of experience, especially that third line, a lot of size around him. But that is something you could get with a good playmaking center like Poitras. Poitras was playing for Team Canada. Who won the World Juniors last year for college? Remember who they were led by?
Wasn't it U.S.?
No, it's a BC layup.
Yeah, my guy, Cutter.
There we go.
I was like, you're trying to trick me? Like, wasn't it us with Cutter?
Led by Cutter, Gauthier, and the kid line. Yeah,
good.
I was giving you.
Roll Eags. Hey, the Boston. I'm just gonna take a second to talk about the BC Eagles because you gave me the opportunity.
Here we go.
I was at Boston College the other day.
Yeah.
We were talking just media things.
Yeah.
And I was like, we got to get ready here. Women's lacrosse. We ended our season on a high note.
Yeah.
Men's hockey went to the national championship game.
Yep.
BC football is on the rise. Like, this is the era for Boston College. This is the era for the Eagles. And it really, like, the BC men's hockey team created so much fun, so much joy, so much excitement around campus.
One of the most electric barns in the country.
I could not get into one of the games.
Yeah.
I'm like, I go here and I play a sport. I'm here 12 hours a day in this facility.
Yep.
So it was absolutely insane. So just to see what, just being led by Captain Eamon Powell, defenseman, and the other guy like Cutter too, all-star, and to have those guys come back to BC with their gold medals, it was so cool. Like, even Will Smith, just to have that experience as a freshman, like, so cool for you and so cool for what they did for Boston College as a school. Out of my 4 years there, never experienced such hype like that.
It's better when Conti Forum is one of the best places to catch a college hockey game. See, I gave you that inch of BC. You took it a mile, but AB, whenever you're on it, I'm going to give you an Eagles layup.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
That's big. Ryan Leonard, Gabe Perreault will be back for the Eagles. But we're talking Boston Bruins hockey. One more soundbite from Don Sweeney for you guys. This is him hitting on the expectations that they have in their winger depth as well, along with a guy on a PTO like Tyler Johnson.
To me, I think Monty's going to have the opportunity to play around with it a little bit. Clearly, we would like to see a a player emerge. As I've said before, and Beecher and Poitras are good examples last year of two players. That pleasant surprise that we all hope for from the development path of where Adam and the coaches down there all put in so many hours to try and hopefully come to fruition. Ultimately, that's what you want. Now, Tyler Johnson's here as well, and an accomplished player, and that's what this league is about. It's just you got to take somebody's job. And you got other players that have accomplished an awful lot, and they want to retain it. And I think Danton Hine did a fabulous job in that regard last year for us.
So Tyler Johnson, who Don Sweeney mentioned there, he's with the team right now on a professional tryout. Sounds like he'll make the team. But the expectations, and he said it too, Johnson in particular brought versatility, winning experience. He won 2 cups when he was with Lightning. Production. That's a guy about to enter his 13th season in the NHL, almost 800 career games played. 55 or more games, all but twice in those 12 previous seasons. That's a lot of experience on the wing, and the important experience, AB, on winning a championship, winning a Stanley Cup. That's back in that locker room now.
Yeah, that's like the money. That's like the money part piece of all of this, right? Like you can be a vet and you can have that experience, but when you're a part of a winning team and a winning culture, really, you see the everyday things that build up to winning a championship, and you're able to take that with you into every season after that, right? And so I think that's a reason why he might have an edge over a younger player, because he's going to have that reliability. Okay, he's been in those top games. He's been in those late season games when your body is tapping out even. So just more of an edge for him coming in with that experience, that kind of winning mentality, and just that journey that he's been on throughout his career.
It's important that how long he's been in the NHL. Obviously what he picked up being in the dressing room with the Lightning team. He won back-to-back cups with them. And to have that depth on your wings. Again, like I've said it and I'll say it again, like their priority was to get better down the middle. You go Elias Lindholm in front of Charlie Coyle and Matty Poitras. That's what you do. On the wings, David Pastrnak, Pavel Zacha, Trent Frederick, down on the third line. Where do you slot in Brad Marchand when he's healthy? Where does Poitras fall? But a guy like Tyler Johnson, and even a younger player like Fabian Lysell, along with having the expectations of the flashes that they saw from Mason Lohrei last postseason. But the way it's built is that Lohrei doesn't have to be rushed along. He can take his time, learning behind a Zadorov and a McAvoy, learning behind a Lindholm as well. And then when it gets later in the season, the postseason comes around. And it's a second go for a guy like Lohrei. It would be a first for a Lysell and Poitras if they're with the team at that point. But that's when you have that marriage of youth and excitement, and also the veteran experience. Tyler Johnson, a Brad Marchand, a David Pastrnak, a Charlie McAvoy.
It's so important. Like we're saying, Maddie is 19. Is that what?
He's 20. He'll be 20 this season.
That's so young. Like I would like to say I'm young.
Don't make me feel old.
I would like to say I'm young, but like that's young, right?
Yes.
And so you're so right. You need that guidance. You need that veteran presence in the locker room, even for like off the ice things. You need someone to be able to walk life with you, and that's why it is just so extremely important. I know just on the teams that I've been on, the best seasons that we had, it was when the older girls were really being intentional and pouring into the younger girls, because that's it. And sometimes maybe the younger girls were even better than the older girls, talent wise, skill wise, but it was the unselfishness and the wisdom that they were able to give. Like, hey, I've done this drill a million times. Don't do that. Like whatever it is, the little things, just in the mundaneness, or hey, you should be taking your film notes differently. Just things like that I think that's what really builds a winning culture. Yeah. And I think that's so important. Like you said it, like you've walked the walk, show them how to do it, right? And just pour into them the experience. And that's when it's bigger than the individual. It's the team. And even as a vet, if someone's getting minutes over you, you still lead them and they win the championship. Like that's what it's about. And that's what sport boils down to. Most important thing though, we've gone through what their wings could look like. We went through the timeline of Brad Marchand. Most important thing is getting one in net back in the crease for the Bruins. Luckily, just hearing from Don Sweeney, it's frustration with himself that it's not done yet. And everything's seeing it's closer and closer. So as of the time of this recording for the chat, no agreement yet between the Bruins and Sway, but AB, we'll see if that could get done, hopefully soon. Yeah, maybe we'll have to do a little pop-up graphic with us in the corner. Hey, breaking news. Emergency show. Hey, I'm all for it. Emergency show. We'll find a way to make the tech work on this. She's Annabelle Hasselbeck. I'm George Balekji. We're going to leave you with this interview. Connor Rogers, my guy from SNY. You catch him on pre and post game for the New York Jets coverage over on SNY. We're taking a preview to Thursday Night Football right here. Check it out. He's Connor Rogers of SNY, Jets analyst for them. Catch him every pre- and post-game show after every Jets game. This one being a Thursday night, them hosting the Patriots. Connor, how are we doing today, man?
George, great, man. Doing great. How are you? Short week. We're all scrambling. It's chaos for Jets Patriots here. It's the home opener for the Jets, but I love it.
So last home opener for the Jets, I mean, do we want to talk about it being in prime time and all the dreams and hopes shattered? Like, what's the anxiety like of this one being a Thursday night game? But, you know, Rodgers is healthy. Like, is there anxiety there? Or is it, let's just get on with it?
He's healthy, but all Jets fans have this fear of the MetLife turf like no other. So I think it'll be a sigh of relief after, the broadcast, I'm sure, is going to bring up the fourth play. And he's going to I think the entrance will be kind of a little bit more tame this year compared to last year where it was a 9/11 game, carrying the American flag out. It was a big deal. They had the light show going at MetLife Stadium. I feel like it'll be a little bit more business focused in this game. But, of course, everybody's walking on eggshells. If the team was 0-2, I would say the panic alarm would have already been pulled. But the fact they're 1-1, they're banged up, but everybody's banged up on a short week. That's no surprise. I think things will be a little bit more leveled this time.
Yeah, for sure. It was big for them to get that win on the road at the Titans. And you mentioned they're banged up. And, of course, our conversation starts with Aaron Rodgers. But I got to flip it to the defense, Connor. I was shocked what I saw week 1 Monday night of them getting dominated at the line of scrimmage. And then the Titans came out and ran for 130 yards on them. What's up with the Jets defense this year? And even looking back on week 1 quick is that was with Jermaine Johnson. Now he's done for the season. And we'll see if CJ Mosley's a go Thursday night.
Yeah, I think very quietly, George, when this team lost their nose tackle, Al Woods, to a torn Achilles last year, the defense started to go like this for a long time. The trajectory went the other way. Now, to be fair, solid scheme and the money they've invested in the draft picks they've invested at those spots is built on stopping the pass and rushing the passer and then stopping the run. Now, of course, the old saying goes that you got to earn the right to rush the passer. It means you need to stop the run on early downs. I do think they did a better job of that in week 2. There was some situations, especially at the end of the game, where they put Will Levis in a throw script. If you put Will Levis in a throw script, he's probably going to do something dumb that costs the team the game. And he's a young quarterback, but he's also very reckless right now. And that's what he did, and the Jets won the game. Against a Kyle Shanahan-led offense, not only did they barely put Brock Purdy in a throw script, but when they did, it's Brock Purdy and Kyle Shanahan, a much different story, and they paid for that. And they had no answer for the 49ers run game, which was an extra tight end, a lot of movement from the blockers, Trent Williams on the left side that devoured anybody in his path, and they didn't really tackle well against Jordan Mason. I would say the Patriots, I think, fall somewhere in between the Niners and Tennessee. I don't think their run game is on Shanahan's level. I think they're a better running team than Tennessee. But at the same time, say what you want about Will Levis, he's high variance. That doesn't mean he's really bad. He made a huge touchdown throw last week. He can make plays with his legs. I think Jacoby Brissett's led Patriots offense is a little bit more one-dimensional. They want to take care of the football. They throw to the tight end. They don't really get the receivers involved, but they'll get that 6th offensive lineman on the field in a jumbo package. They'll use multiple tight ends, and that's a weakness for the Jets right now. And this Jets team, where CJ Mosley might not play in this game, you mentioned Jermaine Johnson tore his Achilles, they're really thin up front. Hassan Reddick is still holding out. Not that he's a noted run stopper, but he's obviously an incredible pass rusher. They're kind of figuring it out. Quinnen Williams is getting double-teamed almost every play. Javon Kinlaw plays next to him, and he's played pretty well. He gets double-teamed a lot as well. Teams put the pressure on other guys to make plays, whether that's Quincy Williams and Jamien Sherwood, the linebackers behind them, whether that's some of their young defensive ends or veterans like Solomon Thomas, who is typically more of a pass rusher, but they might have to play at end. They're scrambling right now, and teams are able to run the ball on them. Against Tennessee, they were able to do enough offensively, and they got a stop at the end of the game when it mattered most. But I think against New England, the goal for the Jets is get a fast start and keep New England out of their run, and play-heavy package that they do very, very well. Now, that's easier said than done. The Jets got to prove they could do that, and quite frankly, they haven't proved that this season yet.
That's interesting that you point out. And, I mean, you diagnosed the Patriots perfectly. You said the Niners brought out an extra tight end. They've gone jumbo tight end, even double jumbo tight end package plenty, with Caden Wallace coming in with the extra blocker. But now, Connor, here is where the fragility of that Patriots offensive line can really rear its head around. Vidarian Lowe's ruled out Thursday night. Caden Wallace, a rookie tackle, is expected to start at left tackle. He only played right tackle in college at Penn State, which I know you do with all the scouting you do. But that is where it can take a hit. But you mentioned that you say that the Jets can take away that Patriots rushing attack by being fast on offense and making them throw the ball. Do you see this Jets offense having that capability? We spoke about Rodgers just has to be serviceable. He has to be a top 15 QB, which he's looked like. But can this offense put the pressure on a Patriots defense that's been good, but also been diced up by Geno Smith this season?
I think he can. I'm a little surprised with how well he's throwing the ball. I knew that he wouldn't move around like vintage Rodgers, but the arm looks as good as ever. Now, the thing that really helps with that, they are getting some of the best pass blocking efficiency, I think, in the NFL as well. They are keeping him upright. They are keeping him clean. I think the run blocking has been mediocre right now, so they'd like more balance in terms of the success of their offensive line. But we know how this game is going to go, right? Christian Gonzalez is going to shadow Garrett Wilson, and he'll do a good job against Garrett Wilson. Christian Gonzalez is a really talented young corner. The Jets have been looking for an answer from somebody else that isn't Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall all the time. They think they might have cracked the code against Tennessee with Braylon Allen having a 2-touchdown game and playing a 2 running back set, the pony package they like to call it. Allen Lazard had a good week 1. He wasn't really very visible in week 2. Mike Williams had a massive catch, but they're still limiting his snap count coming off the ACL. So that's what New England's going to do in this game, right? They're going to come out and challenge you and say, we're not letting you throw to Garrett Wilson, and we're going to do everything we can to stop Breece Hall. Can Braylon Allen, Allen Lazard, Tyler Conklin, Mike Williams, can one of those guys, not all of those guys, make a play and get this offense going? That's going to be the big challenge for the Jets, to get that under their belt and then play the way they want on defense. And, going back to your point, I was surprised they took Caden Wallace because I thought there was such an evident need for left tackle. And
tell me about it.
I wasn't confident that he was ready to play left tackle now. I thought maybe in a year or two you could develop him to do that. Credit to Caden Wallace. When they do the jumbo package, he looks good as a run blocker. That's not any of my concern with Caden Wallace. I want to see how he is on an island as a pass protector. I guarantee New England tries to keep him out of those situations. We know they're going to put a guy next to him. They're going to staple a tight end or another lineman to his hip to not get him in one-on-one situations against Will McDonald. No Reddick in this game, so the matchup's not crazy for New England, but he's still a rookie. And going back to that, New England's running 12 personnel, 2 tight ends on the field 39% of the time. The only team doing that more in the NFL right now is the Baltimore Ravens, and that's because Isaiah Likely is, one of their top receivers, although he plays tight end. And they're running out of 12 personnel 57% of the time. They're using that 6th offensive lineman on 26 of their 130 offensive snaps. Like, this team, they tell you what they are. You just have to go stop it. And I can't, emphasize this enough. It's almost more on the Jets' offense to help the defense stop it than the defense themselves. Because like you said, George, they need to have a hot start on offense. And they haven't done that through the first 2 games. But it'll be interesting to see how they are at home. An offensive line that's gelling together. They got these 2 monster running backs. And I think at some point they're going to take that deep shot to Mike Williams or Garrett Wilson that they haven't tried yet. It just feels like at some point you got to do that, especially with Mike getting his legs back under him 2 games in.
I love that you point out going for that deep shot, because the biggest mistake we saw on Sunday for the Patriots was Kyle Duggar and Christian Gonzalez getting crossed up in communication and DK Metcalf just running uncovered down the left sideline. They're going to clean up the communication, but the big part that is lost in that is a huge loss for the Patriots, Connor, is Juwan Bentley. And this is what could help out the Jets in their rushing attack. Juwan Bentley's down. We don't know how long, but it's going to be a long span, possibly season ending. He's not playing Thursday, obviously. That is their main communicator on defense. That's been a 3-time captain, 3-time 100 tackler. They're starting as their off-ball linebacker, 245 pounds up the middle, playing behind a Devon Godshaw and Daniel Ukawale. Now that he's gone, that is a huge loss. Is this something with the pony package, like you pointed out, a Breece Hall and Braylon Allen, that both have their roles in this offense? Is that something where we could see a teeter the other way, though, where this Jets rushing attack could expose the Patriots for being light up front in their front 7?
Yeah, Bentley's a massive loss. And I think you kind of hinted at this. It's not just the physical, it's the mental side of his game. And what the Jets want to do with the pony package is not look at you and go, hey, we're going to run the ball and we're going to run right down your throat. They want to use misdirection. They want to they love throwing to Breece Hall, but hey, we threw to Breece Hall in the first quarter. Now we're going to fake the swing pass to Breece Hall, and Braylon Allen's going to leak out and he's going to catch the ball and score a touchdown. That's what they did against Tennessee. You know how you stop those plays? By having a linebacker with great awareness that can read his keys, that can get everybody lined up and point out the different threats. That's a lot to ask for anybody to fill those shoes. It's like the Jets right now with if CJ Mosley doesn't play in this game. You're not always just going to fill CJ Mosley's shoes. He's CJ Mosley with all the talent he's shown throughout this league for a long time. You need to find guys that kind of fill roles. So yeah, I think it's a great point that it's an advantage for the Jets in that regard, because while their run blocking seems very average from the offensive line, they have 2 running backs that they like to get involved, and they're 2 guys that are really hard to tackle. It's hard to run with Brees, and that's why it could be hard to tackle him. Braylon Allen, it's not hard to run with him. It's just simply impossible to tackle him one-on-one. He's 245 pounds. It's insane. So, yeah, that's a great point. It's a big challenge for New England in this game. It's fascinating that they're also down Christian Barmore still. Yep. Both teams are very thin in their front seven. Keon White's a game wrecker. So is Quinnen Williams. So they each have their kind of notable guy, but you can game plan against one guy. It's harder to game plan against 2 or 3 difference makers in a front seven.
Yeah, watching back on that Titans game, how quick Braylon Allen is now. I didn't know you could get faster as you get older. He's faster than he was at Wisconsin. And then watching Breece Hall just run a fly route and high point the ball in the end zone, it's not fair. You touched on it, though, Connor. Christian Gonzalez will fly paper Garrett Wilson. Between Jamar Chase and DK Metcalf, he held them to 7 catches and under 50 receiving yards when paired up one-on-one with them. Is there anyone else in this passing attack that you think is reliable enough to go after this Patriots defense? One, by the way, that most likely the play calling will be on safety Kyle Duggar wearing the green dot with Juwan Bentley now out.
Ironically, it's probably Breece again. And you brought up that he had the go ball. He went into the huddle. He told Rodgers, if a linebacker was across from me, just throw me the ball. And Rodgers said, okay. And that's what happened. So when you look at it, the second option in the pass game is going to be Breece because Braylon Allen is ready. That changed what the Jets can do offensively. If he was a classic 20-year-old rookie that wasn't ready for prime time, well, then Breece has to live in the backfield. It's very static what you do with him. Now that Braylon Allen is ready, you could flex Breece out in the slot, and somebody's got to follow him. We know Gonzalez should be on Garrett Wilson. It's not going to be Gonzalez. You're not going to put your number 1 corner on a running back, but can you put a backup linebacker on Breece? Is Duggar going to go have to cover Breece, and that kind of takes him away from maybe the play side? There's so many variables here, and that Breece is really the number 2 receiver in this offense with how he can play from the backfield, how he can play out wide as a running back. It's very, very unique. And then you kind of hope if they're going to, shadow more attention to Breece in that regard, can Lazard, can Mike Williams make a play? Mike Williams on that 2nd and, I believe, 14 that they converted on the game-winning drive last week, Rodgers just threw him a go ball and he just went up and got it. That's going to be a big challenge for any non-Christian Gonzalez Patriots corner. He's still 6'4". He's still an above-the-rim player. They just got to get him going, and that was a really good sign. But can you continue that throughout the course of a game? Not just one big moment you need him. So Lazard's been inconsistent, but we know Mike Williams, when he's on, he's a difference maker. It's just a matter, is he now ready for 70% of the snaps? Because that would change this Jets offense.
And that's a big mismatch with Mike Williams matched up on a smaller Jonathan Jones, a smaller Marcus Jones. And again, with that absence of Juwan Bentley, that's more Kyle Duggar in the box. That's more Jabril Peppers in the box, playing more downhill. Connor, you broke it all down on both sides. And I love that you pointed out the key to victory is this Jets offense. What is your prediction for Thursday night at home in a game where we've seen a low total below the 40s, but with this Jets offense, it sounds like the pressure is going to be on them to earn this win?
It is. And listen, I was a little surprised how large of a number that this launched at. It's been right around 6.5. I thought New England earned a little bit more respect than that from their first 2 games. I mean, they were in an absolute dogfight against a good Seattle team. They really took it to Cincinnati, specifically Ramondre Stevenson. I think they will play the Jets tough. I think Ramondre will get his. He'll break a lot of tackles. They're going to play heavy and really test the Jets. They're going to try to control the clock. I don't expect a ton of points. I think New England covers. I think the Jets do pull out the win. They simply, number one, they need this game. I mean, if not now for the Jets to compete in this division, when? These franchises are in very different states. I know New England's playing very competitively right now under Mayo, but the roster is not where they want it to be, where the Jets have been building this thing for a while, despite who's in or who's out. Everybody has injuries right now. So I think at the end of the day, you're looking more of a 17-13 kind of game, 13-10 Jets win. I do think the Jets will make an emphasis of having a hot start and trying to put a little bit more pressure on New England to actually have a drop-back passing game so they could try to pressure Brissett, something that I don't think Cincinnati or Seattle did a real good job of in terms of how many times you're requiring him to drop back. And I know New England's pressure rate when they do have him drop back is they're surrendering a lot, and that's going to be on the Jets to earn those situations. So not expecting a blowout, but also expecting a Jets win in a pretty close game. I'll land on 17-13 the final.
17-13, I like that. I mean, that's a 2 field goal game. It sounds like a lot. What's going to be a slugfest, and 2 teams that are going to try and run the ball, 2 teams that have been good on defense, which is exactly what the Patriots have been. He's Connor Rogers of SNY. Connor, always appreciate you coming on to talk Jets. Have a good one, my man.
Thanks, George. Appreciate you having me.